Okay, so you know how we're always getting bombarded with ads for the latest and greatest anti-aging creams and serums?
Right, like those are going to turn back the clock.
Exactly. But then you sent us some research on this new product called Longevity Box, and honestly, it's got me wondering if maybe, just maybe, they're onto something a little more interesting than just, another skin cream.
Yeah, that definitely seems like they're taking a different approach.
So for our listeners who haven't heard about it yet, Longevity Box, it's not just one thing. It's actually two supplements, Reset Vita and Renew Vita, that supposedly work together to target aging, and get this, at the cellular level.
What's a hot area of research right now?
Yeah.
Targeting aging at the source, so to speak.
It's pretty fascinating stuff, and luckily we've got our expert here to break it all down for us. So, before we even get to Longevity Box itself, let's talk about what's actually happening in our bodies as we age. This research centers around something called senescent cells. Can you give us a crash course?
Sure, so imagine your cells have a built-in retirement plan. When they're young and healthy, they're dividing, repairing, doing their job. But over time, they experience wear and tear, kind of like an old car.
Okay, I like that analogy. Makes sense so far.
So DNA damage, stress, even just the normal aging process, it can all trigger this retirement, or what we call senescence.
So they're clocking out, but not for a relaxing vacation, I'm guessing.
Right. And initially, it's actually a good thing. Senescence is a protective mechanism. Let's say a cell gets damaged. It could become cancerous if it keeps dividing. Senescence is like a safety brake, stopping that cell in its tracks. In young bodies, it works really well. Senescent cells are even helpful for things like wound healing.
So it's like our bodies have this amazing built-in system for preventing things from going haywire.
Exactly. But, and here's where it gets a little tricky,
Yeah.
as we age, our immune system, which normally removes these retired cells, it starts to slow down.
It's like our own personal cleanup crew gets a little less efficient.
Exactly. And these senescent cells, well, they aren't just passive. They release a cocktail of molecules called ACSP,
ACSP.
short for senescence-associated secretory phenotype.
Okay, gotta love a good scientific acronym. But seriously, what's in this ACSP cocktail and what does it do?
Well, in younger people, SAFP isn't all bad. Some of those molecules actually help with tissue repair and even cancer prevention. But as we age and those senescent cells build up, the SASP recipe kind of changes. It becomes more inflammatory, contributing to all those age-related issues we dread, wrinkles on the more superficial side, but also more serious stuff like heart disease.
So it's not just about how we look as we age, it's about how well our bodies function overall.
Yes, and it creates this vicious cycle. Disease drives more senescence, which drives more aging and more disease.
Okay, that's kind of terrifying. But this is where Longevity Box comes in, right?
Yeah.
With a two-pronged attack on these senescent cells.
Exactly. Longevity Box, it has two supplements, Reset Vita and Renew Vita. Let's start with Reset Vita. It directly targets those senescent cells.
Okay, let's hear it. How does it work?
So Reset Vita uses a really powerful combo of lignans, LIG for short, and flavanols, FLA.
Before we get ahead of ourselves, can we pause for a quick definition? For those of us who haven't studied this stuff, what are lignans and flavanols?
Of course. These aren't some synthetic compounds invented in a lab. We're talking natural compounds found in foods and herbs, which I think is pretty cool. Lignans, you can find them in flax seeds, sesame seeds, berries, vegetables. Flavanols, they're another type of antioxidant found in green tea, onions, grapes.
So we're talking ingredients you might find in a healthy smoothie, not a science experiment.
Exactly. But what's remarkable is how potent these natural compounds are when combined in Reset Vita. The research on this is pretty compelling. They tested it on lung fibroblasts,
Lung fibroblasts, those are.
cells found in lung tissue. And the results were, well, incredible. A significant reduction in senescent cells, even compared to other compounds, including one that is already clinically used.
Wow, that's promising. So Reset Vita is like sending in a cleanup crew to deal with those old, damaging cells, especially in places like our lungs. That's huge. Okay, so that's Reset Vita. We've still got Renew Vita to talk about. What makes it different?
So if Reset Vita is the cleanup crew, Renew Vita is, I guess you could say the renovation team.
The renovation team. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It builds on Reset Vita's success, but with a really fascinating twist. Seigneurie version?
Seigneurie version. Okay, now you're just using big words to make me feel smarter. Seriously, tell me more. What is that?
Remember how we talked about senescence being like cellular retirement? Well, Seigneurie version is like convincing some of those retired cells to get back to work.
Okay, that is cool. So instead of just eliminating senescent cells, Renew Vita tries to make them act younger again.
Yes, it uses a combination of oleanine-type triterpene, or OLE, and O-alanyl-histidine, BAH for short.
OLE and BAH, it is. I have to admit, though, I'm all for scientific accuracy, but could we stick to the acronyms from now on?
You got it. And you might be interested to know that OLE is found naturally in olive fruit.
Again, sticking with those natural ingredients. But what does the research say about how well this whole Seigneur version thing actually works?
Well, they tested OLE and BAH on skin fibroblasts from burn patients,
Skin fibroblasts, so like,
cells in the skin, and they found a significant reduction in senescent cells. But here's where it gets really interesting. The research suggests that Oliba might actually be encouraging cellular rejuvenation. They saw an increase in something called TERT.
hold on, back up, remind me, what's TERT again?
So TERT, it's an enzyme that's linked to telomere length.
Right, telomeres, those are the protective caps on our DNA, right? Like the plastic tips on shoelaces.
Exactly. And longer telomeres are generally associated with healthier, younger cells.
Which makes sense because as we age, our telomeres naturally shorten. It's like those plastic tips on your shoelaces wearing down over time. So longer telomeres, healthier cells, potentially a younger you.
Potentially. And they also found increased activity of SIRT-T1, which is involved in cellular repair.
SIRT-T1, now that one rings a bell, it's been linked to longevity in other studies, right?
Exactly.
So Renuvita is like giving our cells a little fountain of youth, encouraging them to act young and vibrant again. This is remarkable. Can we also see this in the research? Like, do they have visuals?
They do. The researchers provided some amazing visuals of these changes. They have bar charts that show the dramatic reduction in senescent cells and the increase in TERT and SIRT-T1 expression after using Renuvita.
Okay, let's take a step back for a second because this is a lot to take in. Longevity Box is like a 1-2 punch against aging. Reset Vita clears out those existing senescent cells, and then Renew Vita swoops in with the potential to rejuvenate others, even giving them a telomere boost. It almost sounds too good to be true.
It's important to remember that this is still early-stage research. While the findings are exciting, more research, especially in humans, is needed to know for sure. And it's important to note that the research focused primarily on cells in a lab setting, not the complexities of the entire human body.
Right. It's not like I can take a pill and suddenly transform into a 20-year-old again.
Right. We're a long way from reversing aging altogether. However, this research does give us a glimpse into what might be possible in the future of anti-aging therapies.
What I'm hearing is this isn't a quick fix, but a whole new way of thinking about how we approach aging. Instead of just managing the symptoms, we might be able to address one of the root causes.
Exactly. Imagine a future where we don't just slow down aging, but actually reverse some of its effects on a cellular level. Think about tissues regenerating faster, organs functioning more like they did when we were younger. That's the potential this research is hinting at.
That's a future I can definitely get behind. It's all super promising, but let's talk about the elephant in the room. What about the downsides? Any risks? Because honestly, when something sounds this good, I tend to get a little skeptical.
Well, it's smart to be skeptical. We're here to explore the research, not endorse any product. And like any supplement, there's always the possibility of side effects or unforeseen interactions, especially since this is a new formulation.
And even though the ingredients are naturally derived, it doesn't automatically mean risk-free, right? Especially when we're talking about a concentrated supplement.
Right. It's always best to talk to your doctor before starting any new supplement, especially if you have any health conditions or take other medications.
Great advice. Even with those caveats, this research feels like a potential game changer. What stood out to you the most about Longevity Box and the research behind it?
For me, the most fascinating part is the two-pronged approach. We've known about senescent cells and their role in aging for a while now, but targeting them with both senolytics like in Reset Vita and senior averters like in Renew Vita, that's new. We aren't just trying to get rid of the bad actors, we're also trying to empower the good ones to stick around and keep things running smoothly.
It's like we're giving our bodies the tools to do what they naturally want to do. Stay healthy and resilient.
Exactly. And while we need more research to fully understand the long-term effects and potential uses, the idea of harnessing our body's own ability to regenerate is incredibly exciting. It could change everything, not just about how long we live, but how well we live.
That's an important distinction. It's not just about living longer, but living better.
Absolutely. The idea of a magic pill that turns back the clock is still science fiction, but this research suggests that we might be on the cusp of something truly remarkable in the field of anti-aging.
You know, it's so interesting that this Longevity Box research uses natural compounds found in things like olive fruit and herbs. It feels like a more holistic approach to anti-aging, wouldn't you say?
I agree. And it speaks to a broader trend in medicine and wellness, a shift towards embracing the power of nature to support our health and longevity. It's not just about finding a magic pill. It's about understanding how lifestyle choices, diet, and natural compounds can all play a role in how we age.
It's a good reminder that we're not just passive bystanders in the aging process. We can make choices that support our health and well-being as we age.
Exactly. And as research in this field continues to advance, who knows what other fascinating discoveries await us?
It really is amazing to think about all the factors that contribute to aging and how research like this is giving us potential new ways to intervene. As we've been talking about all this, it makes me think about something you mentioned earlier, immunosenescence. It's a mouthful, but you said it's closely related to cellular senescence.
It is Immunosenescence is basically the gradual decline of our immune system as we age.
So our own personal defense system starts to weaken over time.
Unfortunately, yes. Remember how we talked about the immune system being responsible for clearing out those senescent cells?
Right, like the cleanup crew that gets a little slower over time.
Well, immunosenescence is like the whole system starting to lose steam.
Hmm.
This decline in immune function is a natural part of aging, but it leaves us more susceptible to infections and diseases,
Hmm.
and it even makes it harder for our bodies to repair damage.
So not only are we accumulating more of those senescent cells as we age, but our immune system is becoming less equipped to deal with them.
Yeah.
That's a double whammy.
Exactly. And it creates this vicious cycle where as we age, our immune system weakens, making it harder to clear out those senescent cells. Then those senescent cells contribute to inflammation and damage, further weakening the immune system and so on.
Okay, I have to be honest. This is where I start to feel a little overwhelmed. Is it all just inevitable? Our cells age, our immune systems decline. Is there really anything we can do about it besides just accepting it?
It's understandable to feel that way. But remember, our understanding of aging is always evolving. While we haven't figured out how to completely stop aging yet, this research on longevity box hints at the potential for intervening and possibly slowing down or even reversing some parts of aging.
It's like we're gradually piecing together a puzzle, right? Each new discovery like this one on longevity box and immunosenescence gives us another piece and helps us understand the bigger picture of how aging works and what we might be able to do about it.
Precisely. And while there's still a long way to go, the future of anti-aging research is incredibly exciting. There's so much potential for new discoveries.
What's really fascinating to me is that this research with longevity box suggests we might be able to target these aging processes using natural compounds, things we find in nature. It feels like a much more holistic approach to anti-aging.
I agree. And it speaks to this larger shift we're seeing in medicine and wellness, this movement toward tapping into the power of nature to support our health and help us live longer, healthier lives.
It's a good reminder that we're not just along for the ride when it comes to aging. We can make choices that support our health and well-being as we get older.
Absolutely.
This deep dive has really given us a lot to think about, and it's clear that the research into anti-aging is rapidly advancing. What do you see as the next big frontier? What are scientists most focused on in their quest to understand and potentially even extend the human lifespan?
While targeting senescent cells is incredibly promising, it's only one piece of the puzzle. Researchers are also looking into other factors like something called epigenetic changes.
Epigenetic changes. Okay, that sounds complicated. Can you break it down for me?
Think of it this way. If your DNA is the hardware, epigenetics is the software that tells it what to do.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does this software play a role in aging?
Just like our genes, our epigenome can be influenced by things like our lifestyle, our diet, and environmental factors. Over time, these epigenetic changes can add up and contribute to age-related diseases.
So it's not just about the genes we're born with, but how those genes are expressed throughout our lives, how they're turned on or off over time.
Exactly. And researchers are working on developing epigenetic therapies that could potentially slow down or even reverse some of these age-related changes.
Wow, that's incredible. It seems like the more we learn about aging, the more we realize it's this incredibly complex interplay of factors, our genes, our environment, the choices we make.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this such a fascinating field of research. It's not just about adding years to our lives, but about understanding the fundamental processes that govern aging and using that knowledge to live healthier, more vibrant lives.
It's like we're rewriting the story of aging, moving away from this idea of inevitable decline and toward a future where we have more control over how we age.
I like that. Rewriting the story of aging.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the incredible possibilities in the field of anti-aging. I'm definitely going to be keeping a close eye on these developments. Speaking of developments, this longevity box research, it seems very focused on what's going on at the cellular level. Where do you see this kind of research going next?
That's a great question. It's an exciting time to be following this field, that's for sure. And one area where I see a lot of potential is in personalized medicine. Right now, we're really just starting to scratch the surface of how our individual genetics, lifestyles, and environments affect how we age. Imagine a future where you could get a personalized aging profile, kind of like a blueprint. It would tell you what your own personal risk factors are and what steps you could take to address them.
So it's like instead of a one-size-fits-all approach to anti-aging, we're moving towards tailored solutions based on your unique makeup.
Exactly. And with advances in things like genetic testing and artificial intelligence, this kind of personalized approach to aging is becoming more and more realistic.
That's incredible. It makes me think about those old myths and legends about fountains of youth. It's like we were looking for something magical and external when the real fountain of youth might be within us all along in our own unique biology.
I love that analogy. And the more we learn about the science of aging, the closer we get to unlocking that potential.
This entire conversation has been so eye-opening. We've covered a lot of ground from those fascinating senescent cells to the power of natural compounds and the potential of things like senior-reversion and epigenetic therapies. It feels like we're on the verge of a whole new era in how we approach aging.
I completely agree. It's an incredibly exciting time to be working in this field.
Well, I want to thank you so much for being our guide on this deep dive into longevity box and the science of aging. Your insights have been incredibly
It
valuable.
was my pleasure.
And for you listening, remember, this is just the beginning of the conversation. What are your thoughts on this research? What excites you or maybe even worries you about the future of anti-aging? Keep those questions coming, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep those minds curious and those bodies as young as you feel inside.